Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Krentzman. I am a senior sport management and finance dual major here at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and specifically in the McCormick Department of Sport Management at the Eisenberg School of Management. I am talking here about my senior thesis, which is about maximizing Polar Park and redeveloping Worcester. The Worcester Red Sox are a AAA affiliate of the Boston Red Sox that are moving basically this month in April to Worcester, Massachusetts, and creating this brand new ballpark, which you see here at Polar Park. I'll get into the specifics of this move, but first, let's talk about the economics and previous economic research on ballpark and stadium creation. In general, this economic research is very negative. People see these ballparks and stadiums as very costly, and a lot of taxpayer dollars go into these. In general, the positive effects that are brought about by the cities and teams that are involved in these projects usually don't come to fruition. A lot of the things that are talked about are generally not as positive and or don't happen at all. Specifically, there's a lot of ignored redistribution where city taxpayers are paying for things in that area that they would have been paying for elsewhere, but now they just happen to be paying in that stadium or ballpark or its surrounding area. In addition, teams have a lot of leverage over the cities that they're placed in. There's very few professional sport franchises, and as a result, the teams can ask for a lot more money with the threat of relocation. In addition, there are a lot of failure stories that back up this economic research. Here I've shown two of the strongest examples in the Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves, where these cities and their counties are still paying millions and millions of dollars for projects that weren't nearly as beneficial as they originally planned for. In particular, these two situations are very talked about in the economic world, but in the sport world as a whole. You can really see where those negative redistribution, all of those things really came to fruition in a very, very poor way. However, there are a lot of major league winners, and there are some recommendations for how teams and cities can be successful in this. You need to look beyond just the finances and economics. There's a lot that goes into it, such as psychic benefits, where the team and the city are really talked about in a different way because the team is there. There's redevelopment that comes along with it. There's a lot of city pride. People are happy to have that team there and they want to keep talking about it. And it's a reason for people to also come to the city. Mark Rosentraub has been very big in this area, specifically in his book, Reversing Urban Decline. Here he talks about success stories such as Petco Park, where you see pictured here on the left. And there are a lot of general characteristics that work. Having ballparks that are placed within neighborhoods, which is an approach by Larry Lucchino and Jenna Marie Smith that we see exemplified exactly in Polar Park, which I'll get into later. But in general, he talks about how there's no perfect approach. There's a lot of things that can be done differently to lead to success. Some of his recommendations include that focus on redevelopment of the surrounding area outside of the ballpark, social welfare, and focusing on the community as a whole. You need to leverage public and private capital, where specifically the team and people connected directly to the team are paying in addition to those public dollars to really make it worthwhile for everyone involved. Getting into Polar Park, the Paw Sox, which were originally in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, announced that they would be moving to Worcester in 2017. The Red Sox AAA affiliate was highly sought after, and they had considered options in Pawtucket and Providence, Rhode Island, before finally settling on a deal in Worcester's Canal District. Now, this ballpark is going to be miraculous. There's a lot going on. And one really important part that stuck out is that city manager Ed Augustus has been quoted saying, "No existing city tax will ever be used to fund the ballpark construction." Now, looking here at this chart, there's a lot of money that goes into this. It's the most expensive minor league ballparks in history. And there's a lot that's coming in both from the city side and from the team side. General obligation bonds, taxes from a surrounding TIF zone, which I'll get into, state grants. There's millions and millions of dollars that are going into this. And in general, it's going to have a capacity of about 9,508 fans, which if you're from the area, that 508 means a lot to you. And there's going to be approximately 6,500 hard seats. In addition, the team is keeping a majority of the revenue streams, which when you're looking at this may cause some concern. And it's very interesting to see that the city is coming from the other side and they're saying that this isn't going to be an issue. Now, the reason that they don't see this being an issue, and I've learned this in conversations with both team and city officials, is truly the focus on redeveloping the Canal District as the whole. They have worked with Madison Properties, Gilbane Hunt, and AECOM to create what you see here on the top right of an incredible redevelopment. There's going to be 120,000 square foot office building directly in left field where people will be able to go in. There'll be stores connected to the ballpark, but there will also be office space that can be used on a daily basis. In general, across the Canal District, there's going to be retail, office, residential, and hotel space. And again, no existing city tax revenues are going to be used. They're going to use the parking and facility fees, and as well as, most importantly, this district-focused incremental tax. There's going to be a TIF zone where this entire area is going to look at revenue streams likely from last year prior to the pandemic. They're going to compare that in the future once the ballpark and all of these other things are there. And then any increases in revenue are going to be used to help pay off those bonds and pay off all the prices rather than taxes. Now, there have been some COVID effects. Hotel rooms have been lessened, less office space. There's even been some less parking, which has been an issue that's been talked about by the city, and plans are already coming out, and the team is expected to come out with their own plan in the near future. As you can see, one thing that was major here was this Kelly Square. It was completely redeveloped and is now much safer than it was prior to, which I know citizens of that area are excited about. One thing that's been very important for the team, and is very important for me in my research here, is working with Worcester as a whole, working with the community and creating a strong community focus. In talking with both team and city officials, I've learned that this relationship is really important and has gone very well. Dr. Charles Steinberg even mentioned that it was one of, if not the best relationship he's ever had with the city. And he's been involved with many projects across the country. And that was great to hear on his end. We've also seen this, that there's been a lot already happening. They've talked about bringing local restaurants into the ballpark on a weekly basis. They're having graduations for the city high schools this coming May. And they've also, as you can see here on the left, they're going to have the junior Woo Sox, where there's going to be baseball and softball teams in the area that'll likely get to play at Polar Park, but will be wearing the logo and name across the jersey. There's work with the Worcester Railers, who you can see the mascot along with Smiley Ball, the Woo Sox new mascot, as the smiley face was created in Worcester. So they're working with the Railers, who are a minor league hockey team, creating all those things. In addition, there's a plan to be open year-round. They're going to open areas in the ballpark for games. Now, this isn't exactly in the ballpark, but areas that'll be closed off, similar to a Jersey Street of Fenway Park, where fans will be able to go on non-game days, where they might not be able to on game days unless they have a ticket. They also plan to have events of all shapes and sizes, such as anything from small office meetings to huge concerts on the field, even some other sporting events, along with what's already going to be there regularly in baseball. In addition, they've already talked about partnerships with local businesses and organizations of all different types. And this is going to be really important. They want to bring in, they've had their founding partners, but they want to continue expanding and helping out the local area through these partnerships. Now, the goal of my thesis is to come up with some recommendations for how this process can be beneficial for both the team and the city. My two big things are maintaining a strong relationship between the city and the team, along with the community, and a focus on redevelopment. Maintaining that strong relationship is true for both the city officials within the government, but also the community as a whole, as I've touched on. It's really important that they continue to build on these things, continue working closely with city officials and having those same goals and coming up with those same goals together, and also working with the community, bringing in everybody from children on those baseball teams to major companies and everything in between. Now, the redevelopment is also important. That TIF zone and the financing and having the ballpark pay for itself doesn't happen unless this redevelopment happens. So they must go through with these plans. There's going to be changes. There's going to be changes in prices. There's going to be changes in the amounts of things that they can have. We've already seen it with COVID, but they must go through with a majority of these things and have positive changes along with some of the more negative changes that have already occurred. In general, I have some key takeaways for what can be taken away, not just for this ballpark, but for all ballparks and all possible relocations and ballpark construction. A lot of these ideas are similar to what Mark Rosentraub was saying. There's a lot of things that'll work, but what's really important, and Larry Lucchino stressed on this when I spoke with him, was that every ballpark and every city is unique. There's going to be niches and differences between every ballpark, every city, and you have to understand that. They want this ballpark to see, smell, feel, taste, everything like Worcester. And if they didn't do that, it would be a much different aspect. This ballpark wouldn't necessarily fit in another city or even a much larger city, say if you were going to go to Boston. In addition, you have to look beyond the financial numbers. you can't just do what those economists were doing and solely look at those things. There's a lot more that goes into it, as I mentioned. There's going to be a lot that is very positive for the community and for the team as a whole. Dr. Charles Steinberg stressed on this when he said to me that Worcester is going to be on the national map. People are going to be talking about Worcester when they talk about players getting called up, getting sent down, whatever it is. And that's going to make Worcester a very well-known city. I don't think we're going to hear many people say Worcester anymore when they're talking about Worcester. I think that's going to be great for the city. And the city was already growing. They're going to be a larger piece, but a piece of a puzzle. And that's going to be very important. And that goes with the community focus being key too. They need to continue to work with the community, continue building around that redevelopment, and continue working with everybody else that they've already had such a great job with. And this should be followed by all of these future projects, in my opinion. Here's a list of some of my work cited. I'll pause briefly on each slide in case anybody wants to go back, and I can share this if anybody would like to reach out after the fact for some of my readings here. I thank you very much for your time and for listening to my presentation. It's been very exciting and a lot of fun to work on this over the past year or so, and I look forward to finishing up and writing my thesis and presenting it further and getting this out to everybody. So thank you again for your time. Thank you for listening, and I hope to speak with you soon.